So hey, how you doing? I'm Richard Strong. I smoke cigars and I know things. And how many of you think that Mayorkas is going to get impeached? He should be. Make no mistake about it. I mean, absolute. Pretty much all of Biden's cabinet should be impeached. Biden should definitely be impeached. They've all committed many impeachable offenses. But how many of you actually think it's going to happen? I don't think it's going to happen any more than I think Hunter Biden's going to go to jail for anything. I think that the Bidens will get away with everything that they've done, and what they've done is obvious to anybody that cares to look at the objectively at the information that's available. I don't know. What I do know is that America is divided. And for those of us blessed to live in small towns, and by small towns, I definitely mean under 50,000, but I'm speaking more specifically to those 25,000 and under. If you look after just your own interests, like for me, that's Niles, Ohio, and Trumbull County, Ohio. There is no need to look at what's behind that person's name. You can tell. You know what the issues are in Niles. You know absolutely everything. If you're informed at all, if you are at all informed about the state of Niles, Ohio, you know everything that there is to know. There's no Democrat view. There's no Republican view. There's only a Niles view. And it's basically the same thing with Trumbull County. It isn't until you get to the State House, or more importantly still to Washington, D.C., where all of a sudden party view becomes important, because there you're forced to march lockstep. The Democrats march lockstep. That's how they win. The Republicans have a small group of idiots who have named themselves the Freedom Caucus, and they impede and call everybody else a rhino. For instance, Gates. Everybody thinks he's this big freaking hero. Well, here's what he really is. He led 7 Republicans across the aisle to vote with all of the Democrats against all of the Republican House representatives in order to remove McCarthy. In effect, 8 Republicans removed McCarthy. They did so because Democrats were voting for bills that he put forth. The media, because is the head dead yet thinking, spun the narrative eagerly that Gates and his group put forward. Eagerly spun that narrative while ignoring the fact. The fact is, all but 8 of the House Republicans voted to retain McCarthy. Gates and company, voting with Democrats, removed McCarthy. Now, because it was led by a Republican doesn't mean that the Republicans removed him. No, the Democrats removed him, because 8 Republicans can't remove anybody. So they were the true rhinos here are the Freedom Caucus. Because every time they vote against the majority of the Republicans, they're voting with the Democrats. And you don't have that crap when you pay attention to your small town. And there's another benefit when you pay attention to your small towns and you become involved. Your town become better for it. You forge relationships with Democrats, and Democrats forge relationships with Republicans based upon the fact that we both want essentially the same things, and it gets really obvious at the local level. And tonight's cigar is a Crux Bull and Bear, something you see me smoke quite often. Excellent cigar made by Plasencia for Crux in the Plasencia factory, the main factory. wrapper for some reason is a little loose right at the end, and my lips were a little dry and it caught. I hate that when that happens. But if you go into your cities, you go into your local small towns, and you show that you can bridge, that gap can be bridged, and you start peeling back the layers of hate that Washington, D.C. and these special interest groups have put into us. You know, we have to, it has to end, or it'll sooner or later devolve into civil war. And there's nothing in the world that China and Russia and some other smaller countries of the world who don't matter, but the significant ones are China and Russia. There's nothing in the world they would like better than to see the United States become embroiled in civil war. When you keep making conservative thought and speech, when you keep pretending that conservative thought and speech is hate speech, white supremacist speech, and all that, when you keep pretending that, when you keep pretending that only those who agree with woke liberal policies and speech, only those people have the right to free speech. People such as myself, not so much. Locally, that's not the case. Locally, I like to think that it makes a difference. Social media can actually be a good and effective tool locally. Sadly, we have a local issue, and it was picked up by something that I think is an absolute fraud, is Epoch Times. I know that a lot of conservatives out there think that the Epoch Times is a good thing. I do not. Look into their ownership. And that's all I'm going to say. Look into who owns them and what those people believe. But the Epoch picked up on this local Frenchco, Nikki Frenchco thing, where Judge Calabrese made a despicable ruling. He should have been able to see that Frenchco orchestrated and set that whole thing up and caused the situation in which she was arrested. She is not backed by the local Republican Party. She's not backed by this lifelong conservative Republican hawk. I'm going to be 69 in April. My first vote was cast while I was in the Army. So, during Vietnam era, all stateside for me. Thank you very much. And there's local people that are trying to push for Tucker Carlson, well, I agree with a lot of what he has to say. He did the world a disservice when he painted Putin as a hero fighting globalists. I don't know if he still holds to that belief, but if he does, he's an idiot for that. But otherwise, he's not that bad. But if he were to take up Frenchco's thing, anybody else that hears about Nikki Frenchco from Trumbull County, the Republican, she became a Republican to unseat a Democrat rival. She has been nothing but divisive. She has got the county suit. I think we got 2 lawsuits ongoing. 2 lawsuits the county lost. They were settled out of court with employees because she's created such a hostile work environment. She walks through there with her cell phone on record, and just walks through the building. She causes discord. She's got the employees there so on edge and upset over her and her actions that that they turn on their cell phones and record her. And a sheriff deputy follows her around to protect her. she's chilled, and a fellow commissioner complains about the heater that she has, heating, keeping herself warm. I guess she's going through the change or something. And that's just a fact of life. That wasn't an insult. So she turns the heater at him. It's that kind of little passive behavior crap, you know. She gets caught going through a person's personal workspace. And even though she's caught, videotaped, caught. No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't. You know, that's where national news goes wrong nowadays. We need to have a law. No opinions. You just report the facts. No opinions. You give all the pertinent information and report the facts and let us form our opinions. You know, there's far too much so-called news takes facts, puts them into an opinion, and then repeats that opinion with facts in it as if the whole thing is fact. It's not. The best way to find out what the facts are today is read both sides. Read articles from CNN and New York Times, and read articles from the Washington Post. From the New York Post, and from the Washington Times. You know, read both sides. Read conservative-based news and read liberal-based news. What you do is you look in there, and they're going to share facts. They're going to have facts in common throughout the stories. So you just note the facts that the two sides have in common. Go research those facts, because the things that the two sides agree upon, those are the closest things you're going to get to a fact coming out of a newscaster's mouth today. So then you take those things and you go research those things, and you draw your own, form your own opinion. Come to your own conclusion about what those facts mean, as opposed to listening to some alphabet news agency's opinion. There's far too many people who can't discern opinion from fact when they're listening to a newscast. And liberal socialism, communism, anti-Israeli, Jewish hate. All these things are more reason to focus local. You can do more good locally. Vote as your conscience dictates when it comes to Washington, D.C. For instance, my conscience, I can foresee no time in the remainder of my life where I will vote to send a Democrat to Washington, D.C. No. Period. Because they march lockstep. If you disagree with the Democrat Party, you're out. You will get no committee seats. You will get nothing. I mean, that's the way it is on the state levels too. You're out. I've got a friend, he's a solid Democrat, been a solid blue dog Democrat his entire life. I'm not going to say much more about him because some people might be able to figure out who he is. But he can't support, if he puts his cousin's sign in his yard, his cousin's a Republican. He puts his cousin's sign in his yard, the Democrat Party will spank him. So, in the Republican Party, we do it too, but not like that. We do it for actions like those carried out by Nikki Frenchko. So, get more involved locally. And the second, which is Friday, that'll be the 10th anniversary of my daughter's passing. Everybody talks about that dangerous marijuana stuff getting legalized, yada, yada, yada. Look up how much opioid overdose deaths drop everywhere it's been legalized recreationally. I believe it's an 18% as an average. There's places where it's much higher than that, and some places where it's lower. But it remains. And I've smoked pot since I was 13 years old. No one that I know has ever died from marijuana. It's more smoke being blown up your skirt. One of the reasons marijuana was made illegal was so it wouldn't compete with the liquor industry. There was never any reason for health or public well-being. And if there was, I defy you to show it to me, because I've looked. Although there are speeches like, when white women smoke marijuana, they're known to fornicate with Negro bucks as part of congressional record. So YouTube, don't be trying to say, because that's a matter of congressional record. The racism that surrounded the racism and the outright support for the liquor, cotton, and timber industries, and you need to look into why those things were, is why marijuana was made illegal. The gateway drug is alcohol. I drank long before I smoked pot. I had drank beer with my friends since I was 11, 2 years before I smoked pot. But as I stated, nobody that I've known in the almost 56 years that I've been smoking pot has ever died from it. No one. I had 2 friends drop over dead while drinking. They drank too much alcohol and they literally died from an alcohol overdose. Yeah, you can look it up. See how many people die from that, or from acute alcoholic pancreatitis at the end of a 3 or 4 day drinking binge. And then a third person died, but not as a result, but as a result. Her blood alcohol content was 0.37 something. Her body had ceased to function right after she took a bite of a Whopper during the Super Bowl at halftime. And her next breath was her last. Impacted her airway, she suffocated. She was dead within seconds. But according to the blood alcohol content and how many times she had been hospitalized with alcoholic pancreatitis that I was unaware of, you'd be amazed at how easily you could be unaware of that problem, because it's accepted, it's legal. She died. I had 2 other friends die from it, from the long-term effects of it. I had one friend call me from the hospital to tell me goodbye when his doctors told him there's nothing we can do. You've got a few days. And I was the last phone conversation he had. 3 hours after he told me goodbye, he died. But his from the long term. So, if marijuana becomes legal recreationally or medicinally near you, don't fight the stores unless you're fighting the alcohol stores. Look up the deaths for alcohol. Look them up. Alcohol kills, pot doesn't. So, like in my city, in Niles, I would love to see a high quality, high-end recreational marijuana store in downtown Niles as part of the anchor. But that's just me. So I urge you all, get involved locally. It's the only way we can change nationally. So we got to start at the bottom and work our way up. We got to start at the bottom and work our way up. If we can learn to work together again like we used to when I was a kid, before a lot of you were born, if we could work together again, we could turn this country around. But meanwhile, trying to get there, we can turn our cities around. And if you live in a city that doesn't need turning around, God bless you. There's a lot of them. One of my favorite examples around here is Hudson, Ohio, Chagrin Falls, Ohio. Here in Niles, we've got two rivers. We've got Mosquito Creek and we got the Mahoning River. And they run the length and width of Niles. And they're pretty much undeveloped. And Niles, under the urban renewal of the late 70s, early 80s, is basically parking lots. Everything was tore down. The majority of the downtown was tore down. So we've got to reimagine the whole thing. Reimagining it around when I was young and there was a downtown, we didn't set foot in Mosquito Creek or in the Mahoning River because we didn't want our skin to fall off. We didn't want to catch anything. That's how bad it was. Now there's game fish in there. I wouldn't eat them still because of what's in the sediment, but that's a blast to fish. Either one of those rivers are a blast. The creek is a blast to fish, and so is the Mahoning River. Our redevelopment has got comprehensive plan for redevelopment downtown. Has got boat launch for kayaks and canoes, and a new park involved in that. And if I have my way, there'll be greenways along the Mosquito Creek and along the Mahoning River from city limit to city limit. Well, I know this new format isn't doing much, but it's a good place for me to vent. Have a blessed evening. God willing, I'll see you again.